What it do, NMA crew? I'm here with another amazing podcast, almost as amazing as the last one. It will be more amazing to be determined. I'm here with my good friend Crunchy Bagels. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Crunchy Bagels. I have an anime YouTube channel, just like Anime Gurus, except better. It's like literally the exact same video topics each time. I just do it better.
Yeah.
I have the sauce. No, I'm kidding.
No,
we
it's
have
true.
like basically entirely. Don't say it's true. We basically do entirely different things, except for the fact that we both talk about anime. It's like completely stylistically dissimilar, but no. It's a vibe, it's good. But today we're not talking about anime. Today we're at each other's throats. We're like borderline. If we weren't separated by screens, we would be killing each other right now.
Well, yeah. Well, pretty much, yeah. I'd probably be trying to
Viciously.
kill you, and you'd be like trying to keep me alive. Like,
True.
We're talking about.
Within the context of the discussion, yes.
So we're talking about immortality today. And this came about because I was in the Crunchy Bagels Discord server, and I have really awesome internet, and it's so that if anybody else is speaking, Discord will not pick up my voice. So there was like a big 5-way conversation about immortality, and I physically could not get a word in edgewise, and it was bothering me. So that's why that's why we're here today. But also, I mean, I'll state my stance on the topic. I think it's lame. Possibly gay. Possibly gay. That's how lame it is.
Gay even. That's crazy.
But Crunchy over here.
That is downright heresy. No, I think it is very straight, so none of that sin, you know. I say to a bi man. But no, it's really cool. I think we can just both say our stances in like complete sincerity, like maybe
Okay.
a minute of discussion, or I guess a minute of setting up our stances, and then we can
Bet.
go at it. We can fight to the death.
Okay,
Or I
okay.
guess in your case to the immortality.
Oh no. Okay, I allow you to go first. I always allow my guests to go first when this happens, which it happens a lot.
All right. Yeah, I imagine so, as is the nature of discussion. So my stance on immortality is that, okay, so basically, have you seen that video, Why Die by CGP Grey? You don't need to answer this, Rufus, but it's basically that. So, well, my specific stance, in case you haven't seen it, is that we as humans should not only be pursuing a method to live as long as we want, because the reason why I'm specifying that is because when we were having the discussion on Discord, the other people in the call thought it meant, oh, you literally want to be like floating around in space at the end of the universe, like never dying, just regenerating constantly, and you'll like never die, but you'll be alone. It's like, no, that would be a nightmare, and I wouldn't want it. But what I mean is that we should be able to live for as long as we want. I think that is fundamentally a good idea that we should pursue. And I'm not going into particularities and specifics because like in reality we don't know if even if it can be done, let alone how. I think we reversed aging in rats, and that's about as far as we've gotten as a species when it comes to conquering death so far. What I am mainly invested in is arguing the idea that it is fundamentally a good idea, because even getting that far to a lot of people is crazy. Like, Elon Musk is coming out with that Neuralink shit, which, to be fair, I don't like Elon Musk, but if he does find the method to immortality through this, that would be zaced. But a lot of people are like, oh my god, he's Satan, it's unnatural. I'm like, no, big if there, but if he actually manages this and it does let us live forever, that would literally be a good thing, and we should all be cheering. Big if there, once again, because I don't trust that he's ever going to do it, because I think the guy is full of shit. That's a separate topic. Point
Wow.
is, even winning this battle of convincing people that it is fundamentally good to pursue this is tricky, which is why I'm mostly, once again, we don't necessarily know how we'll do it. All I'm saying is we should find a way. or at least verify that it is impossible if it is.
Which I can't imagine.
No, there's like an immortal jellyfish out there. I think it is fundamentally possible.
Definitely.
I think we'll find it within my lifetime. So long as I live to 60, I think we'll find it.
Not if I have anything to do about it. I'll make sure that you die before then. That's not a real death threat. Okay. All right, so I guess I'll give my stance real quick. That was a lot. I think part of the problem with my stance, which is a weird way to start off, is that it's sort of an inevitability that humans are going to pursue immortality. Like, so many developments in, like, not only the medical field, but in, like, philosophy and really all science have been in some way, indirectly or directly, in service of trying to live longer or trying to beat death. And so that's sort of like a very fundamental part of human psychology, I think. But at the same time, I feel like when a lot of people are talking about living longer, being able to choose how long they live, I guess it kind of feels like they're overlooking certain things. And while I'd probably be okay with people having the decision to be immortal with like an eject button whenever, I feel like a lot of people might unknowingly make a decision that is bad for them in the long run by doing it. I'm sure there are ways to interact with it healthily, but I'm very skeptical that very many people would. And I think it would overall be a net negative for society. That's it.
Okay, net negative is very charged, so I want to decompress that. What do you think is bad about living for, let's say we expand the human lifespan to 1,000 years.
God damn.
Right, as like a baseline.
Okay.
All right, let's say we're living that long. What is like the net negative in that scenario?
Well, the immediate thing I think of is, so there's two main things. There's the stagnation aspect of it, and then there's the population aspect. The population aspect could be like in some ways remedied by, I don't know, some other stupid scientific advancement, but I think it might be very problematic for people to be being born at similar rates but not dying at anywhere near those rates.
All right, so and what's the stagnation element?
The stagnation element is more so, I do think, as I mentioned just a second ago in like when my opening stance, I do think that death is, you know, the ultimate motivator for a lot of human accomplishment, human endeavor. I mean, at least it is for me personally, and I'm kind of a death cell. So, I mean, what does that tell you? I think that it is incredibly pivotal in motivating humans to develop, make changes for the better, and do something with their lives. And I think if that is a deterrent not present, that many people would probably live very mundane but like melancholic lives.
All right, I'm taking notes, by the way, just to write down these 2 points so I don't forget them.
And that applies like politically as well.
All right. So I'm going to tackle population first because I think the stagnation argument is really silly and bad, but the population one is like kind of okay. So that's like a decent point against it. My counterpoint would be that one of the biggest and we see this in modern society, right? So birth rates in developed countries are very low compared to those in undeveloped countries. The reason for that is because in developed countries, there is not an immediate need to replace yourself within the population, right? Whereas in the United States, people are having their like 2.3 children or whatever.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because, comparatively, it is very cozy living in the United States. There is no real need to replace ourselves, except insofar as capitalism and the need for constant growth, which is a whole other issue that we should make a system that doesn't require constant population growth. But I digress. Point is, right, if we make the standard of living more cozy and reduce the need to replace yourself, birth rates will naturally go down. And also, we do actually have enough resources on Earth to house, I think it's like some absurd amount of people, but I can't pretend to be particularly well educated in this subject, but we can go well past 7 billion as far as I know and be like relatively well off. And so what I think will happen if we defeat death is that because we're living for 1,000 years, people will just not be in as much of a rush to replace themselves. Like, you know, sure, hormones will do a lot of the work for the first, 20 or 30 years of your life. But after that, like, I mean, maybe we'll just be horny perpetually. But, on the flip side, I think without the need to constantly have children and replace ourselves, I think we'll just have less of them because we will live for longer. We'll be like, okay, at 30 I had my first child. At like 250 we have our second. Things are cozy because we're just living together. I seriously think the need for children, or like a constant stream of them, will go down, right?
I think that's bad.
And why do you think that's bad?
So kids, obviously they suck. They come out, they're half-baked. They can't do anything on their own. But I think the important part about there being a consistent flow from like generation to generation of children, I guess, is because of the fact that they will have spent their formative years in a different context, which I think goes farther than just being able to develop something over your lifetime as an immortal adult, presumably. Does that make any sense?
Not exactly. So let me try and explain what you're trying to tell me, because I don't think I'm entirely sure. So basically, you think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that each generation as it is forms children in different ways, and that experience forms them into specific mindsets that cause them to be productive? Or am I completely off base?
Yeah, I just think generally a reflection of the direction that society's going in. The mindset of the next generation is, very reflective of that generally. And it causes, I guess, populations to develop faster than if they were all to be adults.
So like, is your fear that, let's say boomers, for example. Boomers have really regressive ideologies in the United States. You don't want them to be in power for like the next 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Is what you're afraid of.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, so my counterpoint to that would be that just because the people themselves who hold the ideologies aren't dying, that doesn't mean we can't convince them through other means. People are made to change. Granted, change gets harder as you get older, which is a literal byproduct of aging, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Because your brain becomes less malleable and the values you had as a child stay in there, stay in your meat brain thing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what I'd say, presumably, where I know I said I'm not getting into the practicality and specifics, but I'm assuming that if we're immortal, that we have defeated death, that we have found some way to reverse aging, and that, or at least halt it, if not reverse it. And so, for people who have had their aging halted, I'm presuming that our brains will stay, relatively malleable, relatively fine. That might be completely wrong, but it seems logical to me, at least. Maybe actual scientists will like BTFO me on this, but they ain't watching this shit, so I can stay blissfully ignorant. Yeah, a scientist infamously watching the Rufus podcast. But no, like like part of the reason why people are so stubborn in their ideologies is that their brains have literally kept them like that. But even if they are like that, let's say, we can still convince them through other means, right? And people with other ideas about the world, they will always exist. Mm-hmm. And so long as freedom of speech survives, I have faith in the ability to spread good ideologies as opposed to, like, I don't know, racism or some shit.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I do think it's very presumptuous that we would be able to sustain or augment the malleability of our brains, because it's like, I don't know that it's as much of a byproduct as deteriorating over time due to aging as much as it is a byproduct of developing into your adult self. You know what I mean? Like your brain, to my knowledge, the largest like dip in neuroplasticity comes around your mid-20s, sometimes early 20s for women. I'm a very consummate scientist, so I definitely know these things. And I think it's more just like an issue of your brain being fully developed, more than anything like that. So it's sort of something that I wouldn't really understand how we would reverse type shit. But
yeah, well, I guess also in the grand scheme of things, I also don't think neuroplasticity is that big of a deal in the grand scheme
really
of things, because I think the spreading of ideologies at the end of the day is like the most important element of it, and that we aren't, neuroplasticity does go down, but I don't think we're so stubborn and stuck in our ways that we literally cannot change those harmful ideologies.
That's true, but
even if boomers do seem incorrigible a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it's like the thing is, well, I mean, as time goes on, yeah, I mean, this is sort of still arguing about the kids, but one thought that I had is as time goes on, the next generation or whatever, even regardless of the declining birth rates that you propose would most likely happen, they become less and less of a percentage of the total population, because as people are being born and they're not dying at nearly the same rate, every new generation is a smaller portion of the total population, which is just going to keep growing, and they're less impactful every time, which might be bad. Because I don't think it's, I mean, if we're living for 1,000 years, that's chill, but there's no way it's going to stop at 1,000 years, because by the end of that time period, we're going to be able to stretch it for longer. There's no way around it. And I think the issue would kind of become essentially immortality, as opposed to just like expanding the lifespan tenfold.
All right, sure, we can go like straight to immortality, because I proposed 1,000 as like a baseline, but sure, like there's no reason why we have to stick it there. So let's say we're essentially immortal, right? Mm-hmm. Like we've found a way to make this work as well as it can, anyway. Well, first of all, people will still be getting born, I presume, because people got that dog in them. They got the natural instinct in them.
For sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm assuming there's no way to like alter neuroplasticity, even though that will probably happen at some point in those 1,000 years, I assume.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's like just isolate the immortality.
Yeah.
Like I still don't see why, even if, let's say because we have like reversed aging, let's say we're all like physically, we stay around 30 years old or whatever, something like that. And so our neuroplasticity is, it's gone down the drain, but it's like, whatever, we're chill. Like, I don't think 30-year-olds are so incapable of changing their minds about things that we would be stuck with the same ideologies for literally like hundreds of years. I mean, we will presumably keep some ideologies for that long, hopefully the good ones, but I don't think we'll be so stuck in our ways that we'll be like the uphill battle will be so uphill that it's just like not worth fighting. I think that is very much worth fighting in the name of immortality. Because I think death is like the ultimate bad thing. I think in my worldview, it is the worst thing, pretty much. I mean, like, infinite torture, I guess, would be worse. You can imagine things that are worse.
I'm sure,
but like what we encounter in daily life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for like what we encounter in daily life, I think death is like the worst thing. And in the name of getting rid of that, sure, like, will it be a bit harder to convince people without neuroplasticity or whatever that of like new good ideologies? Sure, but we're also human beings, and we have most of us are not brain damaged. Granted, not all of us are particularly intelligent, haha, myself included, but
not me though.
But yeah, no, you're like a giga brain genius for sure. But yeah, like most of us are like reasonably, like of reasonable enough intelligence that I think we can consider things practically and, change our ways accordingly. Even if, once again, looking at the boomers, sometimes it don't seem like our prospects of that are too good.
Yeah, I do think that there's something to be said for it potentially being an uphill battle worth fighting. I kind of got to address a couple things here because you spoke for a little bit. But I guess it's the tandem of the whole neuroplasticity issue and the fact that, like, man, kids can be like learning languages and shit. Like, I feel like we fail to consider the scientific fact that kids be learning languages and shit. I just I guess I have no
They do be learning languages and shit.
I guess I have no frame of reference for how big the discrepancy is for the capacity for to take on new ideologies between age 8 or whatever the fuck and then age 30. I don't have any frame of reference for that, but I guess I just thought that in tandem with the general mindset that having this sort of immortal option would lead to, of kind of just like chilling out and taking your sweet time, would sort of combine together into causing a little bit more of a problem. But also, I don't know that it's the most worthwhile cause, in the sense that death might be the most overhated thing in the history of anything, because
Damn.
it's mad chill. It's mad chill. It sucks for the living, but it won't suck for the living if the living are also dead.
True. You do raise a good point.
Think about it.
So, yeah. So,
and yeah. Also, I think you're stupid.
ad hominem, appeal to authority. Some other logical fallacy. Yeah, that's the end of my argument. But no. So you're... That was a lot to unpack. So you are sort of getting into the other point aside from population, which is stagnation.
Yeah.
Let's see, which do I tackle
Full disclosure,
first? Do I
I have not
death
seen
is
Free Reign.
overhated or the stagnation thing?
Go with stagnation.
It's okay. Free Reign is not about this.
Okay.
Like, it's kind of about this. It's not really about this.
Okay.
Or I guess, okay, so death is overhated. I guess I'll tackle the stagnation first, since we brought it up, and because I really disagree with you on it. Okay. And then we can go to death is overhated. So, what I feel about stagnation is death does not motivate me. Death frightens me. Like, on a personal... If anything, death makes life feel completely not worth living. Damn. And what motivated me instead was the knowledge that, hey... By the time I'm 60, we'll have probably discovered immortality, and that'll be chill. And then I was like, damn, that's cool. I guess life is worth living. Because, I mean, maybe death is a big motivator to you specifically. You can confirm or deny this right now. You've got the mic.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. I'd be curious to see I'm looking into it. I can't imagine there's a survey on this, but I'd be interested to see whose opinion is reflected more commonly throughout the population.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure most people would list it as a motivator right now, just because it's so ingrained in the human experience, and because, yeah, like, right now, you do need to get a certain amount of stuff done before you die. But on a moment-to-moment basis, it does not motivate me. If anything, it demotivates me. And just thinking about... Because I've tried to do the thing where you trick yourself into believing that you have no time and therefore you must work constantly. Mm-hmm. I still just sit on my ass and watch YouTube all day, even when I try to do that. It's other stuff, I think, that motivates me, of being able to follow my artistic passions or whatever. And, just wanting to make life better, a better experience for me. But the fact that it will all end is not necessarily what is motivating me, I think. And I think in a world without death, or where death is optional, and you get to take your sweet time, I don't, people will surely slow down a little bit, but I don't think it will be nearly as drastic as you're proposing. And I think people will mostly be motivated by other things, like helping other people or wanting to follow your passions. Or, even if it's something negative like death, it could be like not wanting to be judged by others, or wanting to feel fulfilled because you're empty inside right now, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, it's sort of hard to nail down exactly the gravity of how much it would be an issue, but I guess, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I feel like there's no shot that more people feel that the prospect of immortality is a motivator to them than the prospect of death. And not just because it's so ingrained into the human experience or anything like that, but the notion that you have a limited amount of time, as opposed to just like death in particular, because that's what death, that's what death carries with it. You have a limited amount of time, makes you much more urgent to spend that time. And sometimes you'll shut down and you'll watch YouTube all day as some sort of a weird, defense mechanism, because we're humans and we don't always want to work all the time and be as productive as humanly possible every single second of every single day. But I think overall, you're the first person I've heard who has sort of went against this to where you don't feel that way. So I think it is interesting, but I feel like you have a lot of faith in the average person, I guess. If you think that people are going to stay alive to follow their passions.
I do think in a world without death that people would just find other motivators, because humans are really good at doing stuff like that. We're good at trying to find things to cling on to further our interests. Granted, oftentimes our brains also work against us just as strong, sometimes stronger, but nonetheless, I do think it's possible, and I don't think we need death as a motivator, that it is absolutely not mandatory, and that even if it's as good of a motivator as you're proposing, which I don't think it is, but even talking about this hypothetically, I still think it's an uphill battle worth fighting, because death is so bad, which I guess would get into death is overhated. Do you want to elaborate on that, or do you have more of a counter to my previous point that you want to bring up? Because I'm realizing I am going forward a bit quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the previous point sort of is a bit of an impasse, I think, just because we're at a bit of a fundamental disagreement about how humans would react to it. I think it'll be hard to convince each other one way or the other on that. But in terms of death being overhated, I have a pretty r/atheism generic take on it, and that's that death is only as bad as your existence was in 1843. And in 1843, you were straight chilling, no problems, no solutions, don't need solutions. There's nothing. There's nothing bad about it because it is nothingness. It's a total zero. And in the grand scheme of the universe, as funny as that sounds, even the difference between living 100 years and living 1,000,000 years is infinitely the same. It's infinitely dwarfed by infinity. So death is kind of inevitable, and it's kind of goated for that. I don't know if I've ever articulated my points this poorly, but okay, go on.
No, you're fine. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So luckily for you, I am also a fedora tipping atheist. So, on the one hand, I do understand, oh, hey, the universe is infinite. Your life is infinitely worthless regardless of how long you live. Mm-hmm. But that's the issue. I don't think it's particularly helpful to look at things on a universal scale, because, even the acknowledgement that the universe is infinite and that your life is, in the grand scheme of things, worthless is in and of itself something that is depressing to myself and many other people, hence the existence of religion that is literally meant to, hey, you live forever in the afterlife, and also your life has a purpose, which is to get into the afterlife. Mm-hmm. So I don't think just wallowing in the futility of your existence is necessarily a productive solution, nor do I think that it really means much for this discussion, because at the end of the day, most people would rather, I think, live than die. Most people, humans inherently fear death, most of us at least. And
natural
selection. If I had the choice between dying and living, I would want to live. I guess that's very clear based on my points. But if I was 80 and I was told, do you want to die and want to live? I mean, obviously I don't know, but I
Yeah.
think I'd want to live no matter how much back pain I had.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, yeah, like, I don't think it's necessarily a meaningful point to say, well, oh, it's just nothingness. Like, okay. But me right now experiencing things does not want it. The other people around me do not want it. And I would cumulatively be much happier if I were to persist with the people I love. And, you know, the eternal abyss, you know, me existing in that, or I guess not existing, you know, doesn't really have any impact on that.
I guess it's sort of okay. So it's sort of just like whatever your benefiting your internal experience is what you see as valuable. Like I assume you don't think there's any like intrinsic value of the universe, right?
No, all that the entire concept of value is completely subjective. There is no objective metric to measure it at. Therefore, what the most humans want is what we should aim for, unless it's like completely at the detriment of another group of people. You know, there's obviously edge cases here that would be bad, even if it did benefit the majority of people. But, you know, we should try to save everyone ideally. Is that possible? I don't know. But, you know, everyone ideally. And I think defeating death is like a huge thing that will make people happier.
I suppose. I guess so. I mean, maybe I have a bit of a doomer take because I can't imagine not associating that with almost infinitely more depression. But I'm sure that's probably just a me thing. But I feel like death is it's nothing. It's a total zero. It's absolutely the same as life in terms of its quote unquote value because of that. Life's got the ups and downs, and death's just got the flat line. And I don't know. I think holding one above the other is I don't know. It doesn't really totally make sense to me.
I think holding one above the other absolutely makes sense, because, I mean, you can say at the end of the day, oh, like nothing. At the end of the day, nothing means anything. Value is pointless. Morality is subjective.
We live
like,
on a
everything means
floating
nothing.
rock, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, we do live on a floating rock, and nothing ever amounts to anything. But the thing is, that's not productive. Like, if we just say, oh, nothing means anything, we just sit there and, you know...
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a depressing existence, to me at least, where I think we should instead be placing value on the subjective human experience, however meaningless it is in the grand scheme of things. At the end of the day, we're still experiencing it. We still have feelings about it. And in terms of, because I also think you said something interesting here, which was that, increasing the human lifespan would make it, at the same time, infinitely more depressing, because you have your ups and downs, and there's nothing necessarily that will prevent the downs. Except I also, and this is part of just my relentless optimism, I guess, because right now the human experience is like objectively terrible. I think you can agree with me there. The human condition sucks.
Yeah.
It's awful. I hate it. I think so much, and it was only worse if you go back in time and look at it.
Yep.
So yeah, it sucks. But the thing is, I also have faith in advancements in civilization to make it not suck, which I guess is like outside of this whole immortality thing. But I think holding out that faith, especially with immortality, and being able to live forever and hone your craft forever, imagine how wise you'll be at the end of that. Imagine how much experience will accumulate and, make you so knowledgeable about things. I have faith that in the future we can make the human condition like not terrible. Like we can make it like baseline bearable.
Though, would you concede at least that, despite us technically having enough food for more than the current population, that would kind of, at least temporarily take a hit to the average human quality of life on planet Earth?
That it would. I feel like that's based on so many variables that I can't say definitively whether or not it would have an immediate negative effect. Because it is very plausible. I feel like that would also just be a product of terrible economic systems and terrible ways of distributing resources. I feel like
but
if we sorted that out before we discovered immortality, it would be fine, but whether or not we will do that is a massive question mark. But I also don't think it's fair to pin that entirely on immortality.
it's not fair to pin that entirely on
we should-
immortality, but I think at least the way in which I'm thinking about this discussion is its practical implications, like in our world, not in like I mean, it's a hypothetical world, obviously, but the only way that makes sense to argue against immortality is it practically not actually bettering people's internal experience, because in an ideal world with like a bunch of ideal systems and an infinite amount of food and all that, the idea of being able to live as long as you want to and then being able to peace out whenever you feel like it is pretty much like impossible to argue against just because of the fact that nobody's forcing you to do anything. All they're doing is opening up an option for people who want to. So I guess that's why I'm kind of going hard on that point about population and about like the stagnation and how that would reflect on political stagnation.
Yeah,
Stagnation.
so I mostly just have faith that we can overcome it, and that even if it is bad in the moment, because, that does kind of suck about science in general, where we make, I mean, specifically with, I know I'm going a bit off topic here, but AI, where it's like, fundamentally, I'm not even really opposed to certain advancements we've made. It's just that they were, as soon as scientists figured out how to do it, we were just like, release it to the public, unleash this chimera abomination that we have no means of dealing with and that will spread infinite disinformation. So yeah, I do see that point. The thing is, I also see immortality as like the goal, the thing that humans should strive for. Like I value it so high that it's like even the temporary discomfort, because one of my big fears with immortality is that only the rich will have access to it, and then I'll die, and then by the time that everyone else gets access to it, we'll all be long gone. That is very, very likely to happen, and that sucks. And I, deeply hope that is not the case. It probably will be. But the point is, like, that's not an inherent issue with immortality itself. It is an issue with the systems around it, and that in a world where we were able to alter the systems to be able to make this available to everyone and free and yada yada blah blah, I think that would be goated. I think we should get to that point and do like everything we can to get to it, right? Will it happen ideally? Almost certainly not. But I think it is, it's a massive uphill battle in certain regards, but it is one worth fighting, once again. I think it is absolutely worth fighting.
I mean, it's not a battle that I'm particularly interested in fighting, but I think I would generally agree with that sentiment. Most of my arguments hinge on the idea that we may be introducing the concept of immortality too early into our thoroughly screwed up societies, and because of that, it would probably just adversely affect the average internal experience of people. In a different context, I could absolutely see myself being, a little bit more indifferent to immortality and thinking of it like, oh, yeah, I mean, we'll let people do what they want to do. But I just think it might be, maybe it's just because it's so hard for me to wrap my head around, and because I don't understand it, I sort of reject it. But I just find it very difficult to imagine like that bettering humans' lives.
Sure, and I do sort of get where you're coming from. God damn it, I can't pronounce anything. In the sense that I also come in with the assumption that we'll make other advancements that will make it, more plausible to introduce to society. But sure, if we don't make certain advancements or certain changes in our social systems and, political systems, whatever, yada yada, the fact that it will probably be absurdly expensive when it first comes out and that we won't give it away for free. We'll just gatekeep it and only Elon Musk will get it. Like, yeah, that would be a dystopia. I also think we should do everything we can to fight that dystopia. And I feel like, I'm not even sure entirely how to go about fighting that per se. But I feel, we have time to learn how to introduce this to society. Because as it becomes more and more of a reality, we can, more and more figure out how to make this work and how to make it work for the average person. And once again, uphill battle, absolutely agree. I still think it's worth fighting. And I wasn't expecting this, but I think we do like fundamentally agree on like our, I guess, utopian vision of immortality.
Yeah.
Where like if we assume all goes well, you don't seem to be opposed to it.
No. If all goes well, all's well that ends well. I don't mind it. That's skibbity. That's awesome.
There had to be at least one skibbity in there. I think that's very skibbity of you.
Phantom Text. Garden of Maybe.
True. So yeah, I guess that's the main the main debate. I guess the main thing I wanted to convince you of, done with, because the main thing I'm interested in is fundamentally agreeing that it would be awesome to defeat death if it were executed in the right way. Like, it is fundamentally skibbity. But obviously there are like practicality issues that come into play, which I said I wasn't. Once again, I did say at the beginning that I wasn't particularly interested in discussing it, but to be fair, I was also mostly talking about scientific practicalities, because obviously,
like health complications, how disease works.
Yeah, I'm not informed in that, but social practicalities I am like completely fine with debating, as I have demonstrated certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how I could disagree with that as like a utopian vision for the world, just in the sense that is what would clearly make a lot of people happy. I trust that. It's basically, my entire argument hinges on it being counterintuitively just totally counterproductive towards actually bettering your life if it were to be introduced soon or now. And I think it's important to be
now
skeptical
it
of
would
that.
absolutely be like gate kept economically, and only once again Elon Musk would have it. But
also
I have faith that we can. Oh, go ahead.
On a personal level, I feel like I should understand better than I do, but I'm not entirely sure why you desire this so much. Why it's so appealing to you.
I guess we can delve into this. Right, so death is scary and bad. I mean, do you feel afraid of death, or is that like something you don't even relate to?
I mean, I'm definitely at times, I guess, yeah. I feel
like
more
the
comforted
cold harshness
by it,
of not. Oh, you feel comforted by death?
I feel comforted by death
something
more
that's,
than
like,
I feel afraid.
That is completely unrelatable to me. So I guess can you break that down?
Okay.
Like why do you, because that feels counterintuitive to me.
I can understand death very, very, very clearly. It's simple. I've already experienced death before I was alive. It's chill. The concept of living forever just fundamentally cannot not sound like eternal torture to me. It never ending is so deeply unsettling. The concept of something never ending and truly going on forever and having to experience that forever, or even choosing to experience that forever, is just so disturbing to me, I guess. It feels like it just runs counterintuitive to everything that our entire species was built and evolved upon.
Yeah, sure, but I also believe that the human condition itself is terrible and like impermissible, pretty much. And so, like, I understand the idea that shit sucks right now. Who's to say it won't suck in the future? Like, it sounds terrible, but I guess I'm also banking on the idea that okay, now that we live forever, we can just keep making things better. Like, even if it sucks in the now, I think we can keep on improving as a society, and that, like, defeating death is like the first barrier towards that, and then we can like slowly build towards our utopia. Because I mean, I can't imagine the human
Well,
condition ever getting worse than it is now, unless we like drop nukes on everything. That's plausible, but I can't imagine it getting significantly worse than I guess it used to be in the past as well.
I guess I might partially backtrack on something I said earlier. Well, no, I mean, immortality, I have no like qualms, no problems with it existing in a utopian society, but I don't actually think it's very integral to an ideal society whatsoever. I don't think that's one of the main components that would improve the human experience. I think the human experience fundamentally is about, loss and overcoming loss and, the birth of a new generation and, taking advantage of the little time you do have and all that. That's how I've always experienced it. That's what the things that have always made me happy and the things that have always made me sad and motivated me to do more.
Well, I don't think loss is integral to the human experience, just in the sense that I don't think like negative motivators are. Well, I guess I get the sense that like, okay, we shouldn't just artificially make it so that we're happy forever and don't feel any pain whatsoever, because that would essentially be so far removed from what we are now, and also get us in, I guess, terrible situations because we'd be aloof to it. So I get it on that level, but I don't.
Scary.
I see death as like miserable. I see death as like something that is horrible and that needs to be eradicated. I feel like that is like too bad, that like so bad that it shouldn't exist. Where something like being sad that you wasted a day on YouTube, like, okay, we should keep that. That's a good negative motivator. You should feel bad about that. But I don't think we should keep death in the equation.
I mean, I guess maybe viewing death as an extension of loss is why I would feel this way, because obviously I definitely think you need negative motivators. I mean, a positive emotion obviously means nothing if not contrasted by something. Its opposite gives it its...
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I sincerely disagree with that.
Okay, well, why do you disagree with that? If you were happy all the time, you'd have no frame of... It wouldn't be good.
Well, okay, obviously, like I said, shouldn't engineer people so that they're just happy forever, like, regardless of what happens, because obviously you need some level of, like, hey, I'm wasting away, I'm doing something bad, like, I shouldn't be doing this. But I don't see negative emotion as, like, integral, I guess, to the ability to feel joy. Because even if you don't have a frame of reference, like, you're still feeling good. Like, I seriously don't... I guess... Okay, let me clarify what I mean by here. I think we should also, like, get rid of misery. I think misery is bad and no one should experience it.
But...
And it's not just that we should remove... I feel like we should genuinely just, like, get rid of depression and all that shit. And, like, yeah, we shouldn't have to feel that. And we should also get rid of death. I don't think those negative motivators are, like, worth it. I think, if anything, they're demotivators. That, like, at a certain point, something becomes so negative that it is not worth keeping around. I think death is one of those things. I think, like, abject misery is one of those things. I can understand the ability, like, maybe we should keep in the ability to grieve over the loss of certain things. Mm-hmm. Hopefully not other humans for the most part, although obviously there should, I don't think anyone's advocating for a society where there is no eject button. So
it wouldn't even really make sense.
Maybe, you can still feel that grief when someone does choose to, hit the eject button, although I don't think many people will. For the most part. There will be some people, for sure. But yeah, I mean, for sure, there will always be a small section of the population that chooses to hit it after, like, a certain amount of time. I certainly won't be one of those people, at least as far as I know right now. Maybe that'll change in 1,000 years. Who knows?
You're trying to keep your options open.
I am keeping the options open because, I mean,
So
my ideal is that, like, I live so long that I, like, borderline forget that I was an Annie-tuber at one point.
is your motivation trying to forget your embarrassing current occupation? No, I'm kidding. I am also an Annie-tuber. But it sounds to me like, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like you are trying to keep your options open in the event that something may come along that gives value to your life. That's what it kind of sounds like to me.
Well, I
Is that
definitely
true?
want to do that, but I also think I will just choose to, at least with my current mindset, unless something like radically changes, I think I'll keep living for, I mean, obviously at least for a long time. Obviously, like, I literally do not know what would happen after 1,000 years of living, and
Oh
so I
yeah,
can't say with
no idea.
certainty that, oh, I would want to keep living forever. Yeah, I can't know that. No one can know that. But current me would want to do that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense. The only thing I disagree on is the aforementioned relativity of like positive emotion, which I don't even know how you could disagree with, frankly. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's just
I feel like
how
we both
things work.
fundamentally agree that, some amount of negative emotion is, I guess, desirable, in the sense that we do need some negative motivators to, avoid certain things. Like, yes, do avoid, like, burning off your flesh or something like that. I don't know. Any number of terrible things that could happen. Obviously we need negative motivators to not do those. But I guess I don't like the idea that the joy I feel is only, that it must be framed within, like, the horrible experiences I've had. I don't think that is, like, a necessary tinge to have, where it's like, even if some negative emotion is desirable, because I do believe that, at the same time, I don't think it's like, I don't think happiness is defined solely by negative emotion, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's tough because obviously it's all relative, but if there were to be, I don't know, it's just so hard to imagine there being a baseline that you never deviate from, because I'm gonna make up some other alternate universes of humans. We're like infinitely or like vastly more happy than some other version of humans by default, just because that's the way we were engineered, I guess. And the opposite is also true. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't think that there's any. If you exist within one of those universes, you don't, which we do, you don't have any frame of reference at all for what your neutral feeling is. It's just neutral. It's the default. And relative to that is where everything will be judged.
I mean, I guess I'm picking up what you're putting down in that sense, but I also, I don't think that, like, once again, I don't think that, well, first of all, yeah, once again, because I've said this a bunch of times, I don't think we should completely get rid of negative emotions, but also, like, yeah, there's some emotions that are too negative to keep around. Like, are you fine with saying that? Like, do you agree with that? Like, some things are just too negative, we should get rid of them. Like, some emotional experiences. Like, even the capacity to get rid of, let's say, okay, can you agree that getting rid of misery would be good?
Oh god. Oh god. This is really gonna make me look bad. I don't
But
know
your
if I
answer
could
is
agree.
no.
I don't know because I'm doing a lot of sighing during this podcast, but there is definitely something to be said for, and I feel like I've definitely felt miserable before. The power of negative emotions is very real, and there is something about it that makes you feel very, very alive. And I weirdly think that those moments oftentimes can give life more meaning than the strictly positive ones. Maybe in the sense that because obviously natural selection is going to make emotional reactions to negative things more intense than to positive things because its, primary directive is not to die, to stay alive as long as possible. But for whatever reason, there are some emotional experiences, almost always negative, that are profound to the extent where I look back and I feel like those things are what give my life meaning.
That's interesting, because I do, on the one hand, I do get the idea that, negative experiences can reshape you and cause you to, like, better yourself. But I also just don't really see the value in it, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean,
like, I don't know. I feel like development is absolutely possible while keeping people just generally happy. Although, to be fair, I also think it's more... I guess it's more valuable, and I think we can both agree with this, to just get rid of the things that, like the external forces that cause people to be miserable. Because I guess the way you're describing it, I feel like you're talking about something that was like your own fault in a sense. But like simultaneously, like, a lot of that is out of your control, and I want to minimize that.
I guess so. I guess it's just, it is a little bit r/atheism, we live on a floating rock type of an opinion. But I guess I see negative emotions as like the necessary yin to the yang of positive emotions. And I see them as something that we not only could never separate ourselves totally from, but ought to not totally separate ourselves from. I guess it's kind of
hard. I definitely don't think we should separate ourselves totally.
Yeah, as you've said.
I just think like abject misery is bad. I think we should nix that and like keep in the moderately sad experiences.
Yeah, because my thing is the only thing I can think of that would be too far to where I absolutely couldn't stand by keeping it around would be eternal torture. So,
I guess we're just disagreeing on where we have the bars for what level of negative emotional experience we want to keep around.
Yeah, because...
Also, God, we have deviated from immortality.
Well, I mean, a little bit, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely a little bit. But it is still very relevant to the conversation, I feel.
Yeah, I guess in the sense that, part of your rationale was, I'll feel infinite negative things, even if it comes with infinite positive things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying we should minimize the negative. And
that's, yeah, I mean, I could never argue against the idea of minimizing the negative, just because if I were to, I mean, at that point I would just straight up be arguing for death of the human race, I think. If I were to feel like, all right, guys, we have to stop placing value. That's sort of the, I don't remember, like Taoist approach, where it's like, okay, stop placing negative and positive value on any earthly things and just try to exist and become absorbed in the primordial, like, essence of the universe. Like, I don't feel that way at all. I'm a very big fan of having goals and letting your emotions guide you. And I think the way humans are wired is so that we will always obviously chase positive emotions, which usually run contrary to the idea of death. But I guess I like that we can be profoundly disappointed. I like that we can fail and feel miserable, and I take a lot more comfort in that than in the idea of, like, obviously I'm not saying that this is what you propose, but the most terrifying idea to me is the reality where we all go under and somehow are able to fully regulate our emotional state and just be indefinitely happy but lose all sense of, that free will's like a loaded way to put it, but I think you see what I mean. Lose all of our autonomy as living creatures with our own individual desires and wills. That's like my biggest fear ever, and I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's associated with the idea that I feel like there's a limit. Like, humans are... This might not make any sense, but I'm thinking about this on the fly. Humans are finite creatures. There will reach a point, in however many thousands of years where I believe we will fully be able to understand everything there is to understand about the human mind. And obviously that's terrifying because, I don't know how you feel about, okay, this is getting off topic, but I swear it's related. I don't know how you feel about free will. Do you feel that free will exists in its traditional definition?
In its traditional definition,
I guess,
that we choose our actions.
Yeah.
Not exactly.
Yeah,
No, I don't entirely believe in it.
Okay, yeah. So I definitely don't either. I don't think it makes very much sense. Obviously, you the way your life turned out is always how it would turn out if you wound back time and just pressed play again without changing any details. It is determined from the beginning, kind of, what would happen, or what will happen. But if that becomes not common knowledge, but if that becomes available to humans, I can't see it as anything except the total defeat and climax ending of our species. I guess there might be some sort of way to transcend the form we currently exist within, but I feel like there will get to a point with understanding and with existing as humans to where we'll just there'll be no farther to reach, and we'll end up screwing ourselves in the long run.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, it is really esoteric, and obviously we don't really know how everything will pan out. But, I mean, what you proposed was essentially we'll existential crisis ourselves into, I don't know, suicidality after we realize the futility of, I don't know, I guess the ineptitude of the human mind. Is that accurate to your sentiment?
Well, I mean, in the sense that we could essentially, at some point, and this would be very far down the line, I guess, but at some point we would effectively have a total comprehensive understanding of the universe. We would be able to know and predict anything that is going to happen based on our, very sophisticated understanding of the human mind as well as the natural processes of the universe. And then I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's that I don't know how to wrap my head around that, and if I were there, I'd adapt to it. But that is the most existentially terrifying thing ever. It's like, okay, you won the game. Now what are we going to do? We're all going to die, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm being stupid.
I mean, I guess that's a bit outside the realm of immortality and not something I have particularly thought about. I guess the only relevance immortality would have would be that I'd be alive to see it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess my thoughts about that is that we'd probably find a way to cope. I just have faith, man. I'm optimistic. I mean, I have to be, or else I'll be, a doomer and not want to live anymore. So I guess I guess I have to have faith in the human ability to find a way around that. I also just think that's a perspective that places inherent value on the idea of needing to know more, where it's like, I don't necessarily think that holds true to all people. I think there are a lot of people that are just basically fine with chilling.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. And I just see the ultimate chilling as being dead. being chill is not existing.
I do not.
It is infinitely more chill than any worldly sensation of chill.
But it's not even a sensation. Like, I want to sense the chillness.
Distinct, yeah.
Yeah, and so when you say it'll be chill, it's not chill. It's not anything.
Yeah, it's not
just
anything.
Nada. So I want to be chill on Earth, or I guess some other planet theoretically, 1,000 years down the line. But I want to experience being chill, and I guess that's the crux of it.
And I mean, yeah, I can't tell you that you can't. I can't tell you that
I feel
you
like
don't actually want to be chill.
I feel like we've sort of gotten to the end of this discussion.
I think, yeah.
So, unless there's something you really want to say.
Rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
All right, that was
Smoke.
You know what? Actually, you've convinced me with that line. I agree with everything you said because he said rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
Okay.
Good job.
If Pop Smoke never died, we would have never got the rest in peace Pop Smoke meme. And that has incontrovertibly vastly improved the average quality of the internal experience of the average person. The rest in peace Pop Smoke meme has revolutionized the way that we humans interact with each other, interact with existential concepts, interact with nature. I think that's really done a lot to totally reshape society for the better. So I guess that would be the real crux of my argument.
Yeah, okay, that's a very convincing point. I do agree with you. So death good, baby.
Woo!
Yeah, that's about it.
All right, that's about it. Remember, his channel is. Oh wait, I can't say that. His channel is called Crunchy Bagels.
What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna like make an incriminating joke, be like, his channel is blank, and then like say some channel like his channel is Mr. Girl. So just go check him out over there. But I was gonna say a certain channel that had a meme intro created, a certain channel that's initials were PG, a gaming channel with a meme intro.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
I was like, you can go interact with Crunchy over there at gaming. But yeah, that fell through, and now I'm here explaining.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. But yeah.
Nah, yeah. Check out my channel. I'm making a video sometime in the near future. It's gonna be peak Keenography. I think it's really good. Check out Rufus. I guess I've taken over the outro now, but yeah, no, his channel is good. Link your main channel on your side one. I noticed you didn't do that.
Yeah, we got the YouTube professor over here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm YouTube professoring you.
I'll do it.
Trust me, because I'm sharing this with my friends, so they won't know how to find you otherwise.
Okay. Well, I have you have once again humbled me, Crunchy, and it was a great conversation. Not totally. I don't totally admit defeat or anything, but like good conversation. That felt productive to me. I don't know if you got anything out of it because I was floundering a little bit.
No, you brought up better points than most people would, I feel.
Yeah.
Granted, most people are like
bar?
it's God's plan to for you to die, which I patently disagree with. So
yeah.
Obviously that's not going to convince me.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I thought that was productive.
All right. Well, what's my outro again? Oh fuck.
He forgot his own outro.
Stay anime, gurus.